Why do movies release late? This is a question that has plagued me ever since I was a kid. Now, I know movies will rarely have a single worldwide release, and will typically release over a couple-week period to account for literally getting the film reels across seas, but that's not what this video is about. This video is a rant/dissection into why movies will sometimes release months after their initial debut, the history of the problem, and its confusing endurance into modern day. To understand why a film can be late to certain markets, first we must examine how a film gets to the theatre in the first place. Step 1. A filmmaker will create a pitch, whether in the form of an outline or a full script to gauge interest from studios. Step 2. A studio or other party will purchase the rights to the film, usually also agreeing to fund the project. Step 3. The film is created. Step 4. The studio will either seek an agreement with a distribution company or do it themselves. Step 5. The distribution company creates prints of the movies to send out to theatres that have agreed to lease the film. Step 6. The theatres now show the movie for an agreed amount of time, and the deal is completed when the print copies are sent back. So that's the gist, the simple details. So what part of this journey does a film end up being late to certain regions? And the answer is quite simply, any of those steps going slower than they should, by accident or by choice. Due to most countries having their own form of classification board, it can sometimes cause a movie to be re-edited to achieve a lower rating, costing money and time. Maybe negotiations between theatres take longer than they should. But without knowing all the facts, I can safely say that the biggest reason above all else is that they think the film will make more money if released at a later point. As a kid, I remember being incredibly excited for the film adaptation of Diary of a Wimpy Kid. I was a fan of the books and had seen the film slated for March 2010. Little did I know that for some unforeseen reason, my home country of Australia wouldn't see the film until 6 months later in September. No obvious reason as to why, other than assuming the studio saw bigger numbers in that particular area of the year. After watching the movie in theatres, I bought a DVD of the film express shipped from America. I then brought the DVD to school where we had a free period and was able to screen it for a class of 50. So I don't know about you, but releasing a movie in the cinema after the physical copies have released somewhere else doesn't seem like a particularly smart business decision. But I don't know, I'm not a distributor. The good news was, however, that the sequel Roderick Rules released the following April, only a couple weeks after the US. As a kid, seeing the sequel only 7 months after the original release was certainly a strange but welcome surprise. I'm just glad I wasn't a Russian Star Wars fan, having to wait an entire 13 years for your local theatre to receive it. As time has gone on, however, this problem has begun to disappear. Most tentpole blockbuster films were released within a 2-week period in most regions, with Australia getting a lot of films days or even a week earlier than the US. But there are some that fall through the cracks. I remember seeing the first John Wick in theatres. I thoroughly enjoyed the high-octane action and stunt work done by Keanu and his crew. When John Wick Chapter 2 was announced, I was definitely looking forward to it, but as the slated date of February 10th drew close, I noticed on my local cinema's Coming Soon page, John Wick Chapter 2 wouldn't be releasing until May 18th. The hype and momentum of the movie came to a screeching halt for me, and the eventual release came and went without me even realising I'd missed it. I still to this day haven't watched John Wick 2, 3, or 4 for that matter. I know people will say nothing is stopping me from watching them now, and that's true, but I don't think it changes the fact that the date difference played a part when missing its initial theatre run. Sometime soon I'll have to sit down and watch the entire series back to back and enjoy the series on its own merit. 2020 had its own set of problems, but for the most part it was pretty fairly spread worldwide due to the pandemic. A lot of films were just outright pushed out of the year, some getting worldwide streaming releases. However, one release that particularly annoyed me was Venom 2 Let There Be Carnage. As quarantine began to leak into 2021, Sony delayed Venom 2 to late in the year. As the state of the world began to clear up, however, it got moved forward to an October 1st release. Other areas of the world weren't so lucky. Australia was stuck with a November 25th release date. Being an avid Spider-Man fan, however, it didn't take long for spoilers to leak their way into my various online feeds. Going without internet for almost 2 months isn't really something I'd be prepared to do, especially not for Venom 2. I'm more concerned about the chance of this happening with a movie I am beyond hyped about, like Endgame. Imagine having Avengers Endgame drop in your country 2 months late. Luckily, films like that don't particularly have it in their best interest to release late anywhere in the world. Part of the charm of those films is that we're experiencing the storyline together, worldwide. So why have I spent the last handful of minutes ranting about a first world problem that ultimately has very little long-lasting effects on my experience as a film watcher? Well, it doesn't. I now own a lot of these movies that were originally late and can watch them whenever I please. It just stings to be excited for a film, jumping on the hype train and being told your stop is weeks after everyone else's. Which is ultimately why I made this video, because I'm currently in the ever painful 5-week waiting period for the next TMNT movie. Thanks Hollywood, never change!